Politicians spending on a campaign, would-be monopolists spending for the right to get the monopoly, and countries going to war can all be thought of in one economic model. Economists sometimes call this a pay-all auction. And think of the following metaphor. Imagine an auction in which I bid $10, you bid $12, she bids $14, going, she gets it. We call that a standard auction, or if you want to be fancy, an English auction. It goes to the highest bidder pays the amount bid, and the highest bidder then gets that amount. There are many other kinds of auctions. In a pay-all auction, I bid 10, you bid 12, she bids 14, maybe I bid 16, then I get it for 16, but she has to pay 14 and you have to pay the 12. That is, it's pay-all. Everybody needs to pay the amount of his or her highest bid. Same thing with a campaign. You spend a lot of money on your campaign, I run against you, and I spend a lot of money running against you. One of us wins, none of us gets our money back. It's not like a standard auction where if you lose, at least you don't have to pay. Let's imagine Big Air participating in an auction in order to get its monopoly in the first place. We already know that Big Air can make a lot of money if it's the only one flying from Boston to LaGuardia, but it has to acquire those landing rights. And imagine that the government is auctioning off those landing rights. So one airline can fly the route. Big Air is willing to pay up to $300 for it, let's imagine. But maybe American Airlines is willing to pay $300 as well. And maybe United is also willing to pay $300. They can all see you can make a lot of money being the monopolist here. Now the government puts it out to bid. Of course, it might not do that explicitly. It might be, let's see who can curry favor with the politicians. In that case, the money will really be wasted. Big Air might jump into the fray and spend $100 whining and dining and trying to pay off politicians. But United is not far behind, and it bids $200. And then perhaps American Airlines goes for broke and bids $250. It'll only make $50 if it gets the landing rights because it's going to make $300 and has now spent $250. But from a point of view of Big Air, which has already invested, we might say $100, it pays to invest another $250. That is, even though it will have spent $350 altogether and lose money on the deal, right now it's going to lose $100 and have nothing to show for it. So it might be willing to throw in another $250 to make the $300. Well, following that logic, we can see that if Big Air does that and actually gets the landing rights, Big Air will have spent $350 in order to make $300, and American Airlines will have wasted money, and United Airlines will have wasted money, and the overall rent-seeking can really be quite large. I guess the problem could be even worse. It could be trebled. Politicians might change things. Maybe the government knows that really the best way to run LaGuardia is to have 3 competing airlines. But in its quest to get all this whining and dining and campaign contributions, the government might inefficiently set up LaGuardia only to handle one airline in order to get rent-seeking from the airlines. So you see how monopolies and the structure of government begin to fit together. The monopolist gets to make more money once it's a monopoly, but in order to be a monopoly, it often needs the government's help. And in turn, the government might sometimes need the monopoly in order to fuel the politicians and their preferences. This is the very unhappy side of monopoly.